Hi friends, I'm Felicia. Welcome here. I'm back again already. Can you believe it? And immediately as I hit record, I get an eyelash in my eye. Don't know if I got the hair, but whatever. Anyway, so I'm here to tell you the books that I read in January. Are you excited? I'm excited. I thought I would start the video by telling you my reading goals for the year, my reading plans, kind of. Yeah, I'll just tell them to you. So this year, first of all, my first reading goal is to read through the whole Bible this year. It's been quite a few years already since I've read through the whole Bible, like in a year. So I have actually a Bible, which is in the other room, but it is a chronological Bible, and then it has readings for every day. So I am doing that. It's going well so far. Yeah, so that's a reading goal because I want to read the Bible. Then my other goals are to read 6 classics, to read 12 Christian nonfiction and 12 regular nonfiction. So what I'm thinking Christian nonfiction is just like things that I can learn, either theology or I don't know, stuff like that. And then nonfiction can be whatever, biographies or other things. Do I need to explain that to you? I think you got it. I'm doing Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf challenge, so I'm also gonna work through that this year. I'm also planning to read through all of Emily St. John Mandel's books. I got the idea from Susan from Road Reads, because last year I think she read 5 out of her 6 books, and then she was saying like if I read the last book then I would have read all of them in a year. And I was like, I could read all of them in a year. And like some of them I haven't read in quite a few years. And so I thought, hey, let's just like read through all of them. Why not? This might be a silly goal, especially with like all of the other books, because I haven't been reading that much. So I'm trying to like kind of get back into the habit of reading like a lot and like reading in the evenings, because I feel like I rely a lot on audiobooks and just reading on my Kindle when I'm in bed, but that's only for like a few minutes before I fall asleep, unless I wake up in the middle of the night, in which case I'm reading for like 2 hours. I just want to, like try to challenge myself to read more, but like with all of those goals that I have, that doesn't actually leave a lot of room for like other books. So I actually just like want to just read lots. I've gotten out of the habit, and so I just like, I miss it. So I want to see if I can start reading a lot of books again. But yeah, so those are my goals. So for January, I did not complete all of them. So I guess like it doesn't have to be exactly one a month, but like that just works out nicely, doesn't it? I'll tell you the books that I read. I read 1 book physically, 1 book on my Kindle, and then I listened to 3 audiobooks. Out of those books, I read the nonfiction book, actually 2 nonfiction books, and then I finished the book for the Read Your Bookshelf challenge. So I'll just start in the order that I read them. So the first book that I finished in January was Broken Horses by Brandi Carlile. Over the last few years, I've really become a fan of Brandi Carlile's music. Well, first of all, I really enjoy that style of music, kind of like that folk Americana. That sounds weird to me. Anyways, that kind of music, and I just really enjoy her songs. And yeah, so I saw that the audiobook was available on Libby, so I decided to get it, and I really enjoyed it. She reads it herself, and at the end of every chapter she plays songs, just like either on the guitar or on the piano, that relate to like either she talks about them in that chapter or like they're songs that she wrote during that time period in her life. And so I mean, that was a great bonus, I guess. Great addition to the book, the reading experience. And she just goes through her life, like talking about her childhood, how she got into music, and then getting into music as a young adult, becoming famous, and all those things up until I think, when was it published? It was actually published in 2021. So I think she was writing it during the pandemic already. So she even mentions that. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I definitely enjoyed the reading experience, and I really admire Brandy Carlisle. Like, she is just like a woman that never ever stops ever stops working. She's just like always busy doing something, and it's like, girl, how do you get that much stuff done? But yeah, so I enjoyed the book. If you like her music, then I would recommend it. The next book that I finished was my physical read for the month, and that was The Story Girl by Ella Montgomery. And yeah, I've been working through Ella Montgomery's books. I could have read Emily's Quest. I'm not done that trilogy yet, but my book club was reading this book, so I read this one. And then I'll go read Emily's Quest, finish that series, and then read The Golden Road, I think is the sequel to this one. But yeah, I just really love this one. I mean, it kind of follows the typical Ella Montgomery formula, I guess, where you just have like precocious children on the island and they get up to hijinks. But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything intelligent to say. I just really enjoyed it because I love Ella Montgomery and I love her characters. And like, some of the situations in this book were so funny. I highly recommend, if you like Ella Montgomery books, to give this one a try. Then I finished my book for the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. So this year Chantel's doing it where you follow like 2 tracks with like parallel or opposing prompts. So we can either follow Ella Montgomery or we can follow Arthur Conan Doyle. And so some months, I think like 3 times, the prompts will be the same for the month, and then you can like switch tracks, but otherwise you have to stay on the track that you picked. So I picked Ella Montgomery, Are You Surprised? And the prompt for January was to read a book with a cat on the cover. So I read Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and it's the sequel to Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which I read a few years ago and I really enjoyed. And I enjoyed this one as well. This was the one I read on my Kindle. So the series is kind of just like different stories that happen following different people that come to visit this cafe. And the thing that's special about this cafe is that you can travel through time. So there's a bunch of rules about the time travel. One of them being that you can only stay in the cafe. You have to sit in that seat, the one specific seat in the cafe. You can only sit there. If you stand up from the chair, then you go back to the present, and you have to drink all of the coffee before it gets cold. You can only meet people that have been to that cafe before, and there's like more rules. So I find these stories just like really sweet. Sometimes they're sad. But yeah, overall, I really enjoy the books. So I probably will continue on with the series at some point. I'm sure my library has them, so we will see. The next book that I finished was an audiobook, and I listened to Casino Royale by Ian Fleming, and that is the first book in the James Bond 007 series. And I listened to it because Dan Stevens narrates it. That felt weird coming out of my mouth. Anyway, and it was really boring. Like, it was seriously the only reason I finished it was because like Dan Stevens was reading it. I've seen the movie with Daniel Craig like a bunch of times when I was younger, when it first came out. And then I've seen Quantum of Solace, and then those are the only James Bond movies that I've ever watched. So I knew the story of Casino Royale, and honestly I would prefer the movie because it's not so misogynistic. And it's just kind of boring because he like spends a lot of time describing the gambling, the baccarat that they're playing, and it's just like, okay, I get it, like, blah. And I mean, I don't gamble, so I don't know any gambling, just from what I see in movies, and so I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, it's just like kind of boring, and like Bond is just so cold and calculating, and I don't know, for me, I didn't really enjoy it because I guess I enjoy books that have like more warmth in the characters. I will say though, like, Dan Stevens was a perfect narrator because he's so good at accents, and there were so many different accents that he got to do in this book. But yeah, Bond is just like not a great character that I enjoy reading anyway. So I don't think I'll listen to any more of those books. Plus, whatever, none of them are available I mean, like besides Audible. Like I don't think my library has them. I mean, maybe they do, but they're like the celebrity ones, so I'd rather listen to those. Like I know Tom Hiddleston does one, and Rosamund Pike, who's a great narrator, both of them. So anyways, that's my rabbit trail to say that I didn't really enjoy Casino Royale, and like if you respect women, like maybe don't read. Okay, anyways, moving on. The last book that I finished in January was Decluttering at the Speed of Life by Dana K. White, and I listened to that one on audio. She reads it herself, the author, and it's just like decluttering motivation. So I mean, I'm kind of a decluttering book aficionado. Like I just really like to listen to them and read them. So yeah, like nothing that she was presenting was new, but like she has like a really approachable way of decluttering, and she just like gets real. I guess just like her approach I really enjoyed. So like nothing was new, but like her mindset about it was refreshing to me, I suppose. And the thing that she said in the book that just like really stuck with me is, and like Marie Kondo also talks about this, like your dream self or your fantasy self. Is she the one that someone talks about a fantasy self? Now I'm questioning that. And are you keeping things for your fantasy self, or that must not be Marie Kondo. Someone talks about their fantasy self. Oh, the lazy genius. That's who talks about it. Your fantasy self. So not necessarily decluttering both like your life and your schedule. Anyways, okay. So Lazy Genius talks about your fantasy self. And so what Dana White talks about also is like, are you keeping things for a potential stage of life or a stage of life that you're out of? Is that why you're keeping these items, or can you let go of them because they're not for a phase of life that you are in? So like pairing that with the Lazy Genius's fantasy self, I've actually been motivated to start decluttering things. I mean, Chris and I talk about this all the time about like just moving house. We've been in our house for, it'll be 14 years in, no, 13. Like what year is it? It'll be 13 years at the end of April. And like we have lived in this house since we got married, and so it's just like we just like a change, like move somewhere a little bit closer to Chris's work. He has quite a long commute. Anyway, so we talk about this a lot, and what's motivating to me is like just thinking about moving, and she talks about this in the book too, just like moving, and you're like, would I pay someone to move this? And so I've kind of been motivated to start decluttering things with that mindset of like, would I pay to move this? Because we potentially might move this year. So it's like, it's just like realistic, I guess, to think of it that way. So I have a horrible magazine collection. Like it just, I didn't know I had so many, and I just like chucked a bunch away the other day because in my mind it's craft supplies, because I enjoy collage, which I really am inspired by Holly's collages. Lovely Day with Holly. But I have like a different style. I do like more like little bits like mail art. I used to just be into that so much, like decorating all the envelopes that I would send out. And I feel like now I just, either I'm like overwhelmed with all the paper bits that I have, or I just don't have time. I'm not really creatively inspired. I don't know, but like I haven't done it collage that way in years. And so I've been keeping all these magazines as like supplies, but realistically more paper supplies than I could ever work my way through. So I've been going through, pulling out the images that like really speak to me, and then just recycling the rest. And so I had like a bin, it's right there, you can't see it. I had a bin that was full of magazines, and I went through all of them, and like it was like, okay, like imagine like two stacks like this of old HGTV magazines, and I was just giggling the whole time because they were from like 10 years ago, and like the things that were trendy then, like wow, like, and they have like house tours, and I'm like, these poor people have had to redo everything in their house because it's so out of trend now, like it's just so dated. Anyway, so I was laughing, and okay, so like two stacks like this, I kept maybe like 12 pages. So, you know, so I really saving myself room But yeah, that was an aside. If you want to tackle decluttering and you need motivation, I would recommend this book. I would recommend the audiobook because she's a really friendly way of speaking and you just really feel like she's trying to help you. So it's great. But yeah, so those are the books that I read in January. There's something walking on the roof. Okay. There's a cat that goes up on our roof. We came home one evening, there was a cat just sitting on our roof. So that was nice. Not our cat, but there's like outdoor cats that live around there. I think it was Gremlin or Oreo that was sitting up there. Those are the black ones. Oreo has a white stomach. There's Gremlin and Larry and Oreo and Ron Weasley. Those are the cats. Another goal that I didn't tell you that's kind of not specifically a reading goal, but like reading comes into it. So I started on November 1st. I started a no-buy, which has actually been going really well. So I'll link below the video that inspired me. It was a video from Cinzia Dubois. Yeah, like I really liked the rules that she laid out for it. Her rules for herself. And so I'm basically doing exactly the same thing. And so I'm not buying any books. I haven't bought any books since November 1st, except for books that I bought with money that I was given for Christmas with the express purpose to buy books. And so I bought books during Boxing Day on Book Outlet because I thought that was a great time. Way to maximize that money. And I bought like 6 Agatha Christie books and 2 C.S. Lewis books and I Capture the Castle and I Must Betray You. And Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town. Anyways, so like those plus some C.S. Lewis books that already went over there with my other C.S. Lewis books on the TBR shelf. And I'm not buying any books this year until November 1st. With the exception of I don't need to keep holding them. With the exception of my book club. Those are the only books I can buy because I do like to buy the books that we read for book club. And so we read 6 books a year. And since I started the no-buy, we've read 2 books and they're books that I already own. So now like the maximum amount of books that I will buy is 4. So like that's pretty good. But yeah, so the library is going to be my friend, I guess, but I really just want to read these. Like I just want to read these. Now, do I have a book on hold at the library? Yes. It's the first Mrs. Polifax book because Chantal is influencing me. And she just loves Mrs. Polifax. So I'm like, okay, well, my library has them, so I'll read them. Anyways. So, like, we'll see if I actually get to it. I hope so. Anyway, so, like, my goal for my, and I'm including Kindle books. My other goal, this is a reading goal, I guess. I have a goal to get 100 books off of my TBR shelf, but that's like the greater TBR shelf, including like this and my Kindle and my unread Audible books. So I have one spreadsheet where I have all of them and I want to see that number decrease by 100. So, and like with the decluttering, I've already unhauled like maybe a dozen books, although some of them are books that I already read that I don't want anymore. Yeah, so I'm not buying books and I'm trying to get rid of read 100 books off of my TBR shelf. So, and I don't read 100 books a year anymore. So then decluttering is gonna have to happen. And so I've decluttered a few. And like I feel good about like what's on here now. Like I really feel motivated to read them. Do you guys remember when I was breaking up with YA? And I was gonna unhaul all of the ones that I didn't read. Well, what I did was I read the ones I was least excited about, and so I still have the ones that I'm most excited about on my shelf. And so I didn't unhaul them. So I still have, there's Ruin and Rising and Siege and Storm. I did start that last year, that series. And like I did actually just buy I Must Betray You, but Ruta Spanish doesn't count. Like, she's just amazing. Now I'm just babbling, so I'm gonna stop. I don't know how many rabbit trails I started and haven't tied off. You don't tie off a rabbit trail. Oh my word. Anyway, thanks for watching. I If you've read any of these books, let me know. Tell me what some of your reading goals are for the year. And that's it. So I hope that you are having a good day and you're enjoying what you're reading. And until next time, so long and thanks for the fish.